I know there wasn't enough time. I'm sorry. There's never enough time, but especially on this one. But we will be picking up stuff again later. I just want to make sure we have enough time for the second part for people who only have an hour. And Josh, zip it. Yeah, but if you were the reporter or the recorder or what have you, if you can throw thoughts that aren't just sassing me into the chat, that would be excellent. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. And I will also, Ellen, do you want me to do the screen share?
Please.
Okay. So
yeah, I think we may have time if like maybe 1 or 2 people want to raise their hand to share out loud. We could probably do that. Is that okay, Amy?
Yeah, we're in your time now, so you use it however you want.
I get to do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in charge. Anybody want to share as a, hold on, I'm trying to get us to the, where I can actually see.
Yeah, if anyone wants to, I have people pulled up. If anyone would like to hand raise and share things. Alicia, you have unmuted, which makes me think maybe you want to say something.
No, I could, but we had a different note taker, so. I don't know if Alexis wants to say anything, or I can. Oh, so Alexis typed in the chat, not having attendance or participation, but citizenship and preparation points.
Love
Ooh,
that.
I like citizenship points. That's nice. I typically talk about it like engagement points. Yeah. Anything else that anybody wants to share aloud instead, or we can just type in the chat. This is also one of the things that I wanted to try out to see, like, will people share out loud or do they want to type in the chat? Like,
I'm willing to talk if you want.
Yes, please.
Go for it.
Okay, so we all were talking, all of us agreed, which is awesome, that we do unlimited quiz retakes, which sort of lowers that anxiety for a lot of students who think it's make or break. And quizzes are what I personally do. I know some people do any assessments you can retake or redo. And if you use your learning management system, you can set it so you have unlimited retakes. It's not like you have to do it every single time, unless there's a short answer maybe. And then some people get really worried about it because it's more work for you, but actually you get more engagement from the students. So yeah, we are all on board on that.
Yeah. And I think that segues pretty well into the next thing that we're going to talk about.
Can I just before, Nicole, I noticed you unmuted. I just wanted to see if Nicole, if you had something you'd wanted to say, or if that was.
Thank you. I was just putting in chat. Sorry, I had a vet emergency. You had mentioned it earlier, and I am a big fan of OER. I think that one of the biggest challenges for students, I teach community college. Most of my students are, they work, many of them are parents, lots and lots of them are first generation to college. And so they haven't grown up in an environment where they're familiar with some of the nuance of college jargon and college stuff, and textbooks are just prohibitively expensive. It is by itself a gatekeeping policy. So I have been doing a ton of research because I teach mythology, I teach Greek and Roman humanities, to try to get open access primary sources and textbook replacement stuff. I found a great world history open access textbook. It's copy, paste, do whatever you want with it. And I can share the link in the chat. I just have to go into my computer to get it, but it's pretty cool. And I think it'll be helpful. I think that's the big thing I wanted to talk about. Open education resources, really key.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I love that.
Yeah, and I think some of us were having kind of a conversation in the chat, especially those of us who have access to kind of big university libraries, often have more access to ebooks than you might have anticipated. So that's something I basically do every semester now, and I've gotten to the point where I assign very few books for students to actually purchase. is just by telling them, hey, we have this for free in the library and you can use this version or you can buy one, your choice. And it's gotten pretty good feedback, and the people who don't want to read ebooks will buy them. So anything else anybody want to share before we move on to the next thing? All right, thanks y'all. Okay, Amy, next slide. So for the rest of today, we're going to talk about how to balance this stuff. And the real, as Amy mentioned earlier, I don't know how. I am definitely feeling at this point like I am very much at risk of burning out before the semester even begins. I feel really tired all the time. I feel really worried all the time. As somebody who manages anxiety, by planning this semester, or this see, I just called it a semester, even though technically I haven't been working. I definitely have been kind of trying to make a new plan every week and spent so much time trying to work through, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? Without actually achieving anything, like accomplishing any goals fully. And I feel like that has been really, really hard for me. As well as, the new anxiety producing news that's coming through every day, and kind of my institution changing its ideas about what it wants to do and changing its policies, or just not telling us stuff. And I think that's probably something most of us are dealing with. So my question for us, which I don't have an answer to, is how do we keep from martyring ourselves for our students, our colleagues, and our schools? How do we keep ourselves from getting to that point that where we can't manage one more thing, right? Which is kind of where I already feel like I am, to be perfectly honest. So I don't have answers, and I don't have a lot of thoughts, except for my general perspective is that I'd like to go into the semester with a plan, though, as I just pointed out, maybe planning was what has led me to this point. So maybe that's a bad idea. But I feel like I'm not going to be able to enforce boundaries either for myself or, how I represent to myself to my students or my colleagues, if I don't have a good idea of what those boundaries should be in the first place. So I wanted to ask y'all, basically, what do you do? What is working? Amy, can you pull up the next slide? So basically, we're going to go straight into breakout number 2. This one, we're not going to ask group reporters to report out again, because I think that it's possible that you might get into some more kind of personal stuff in thinking about these questions. So what I'd like you to do is think about what I've just been talking about, right? How do we balance the demands of pandemic instruction, whether it's student needs, students who need more flexibility than we can manage, right? I may not be able, although I can definitely give infinite retakes for something that is a quiz in the LMS that I don't grade. I don't know if I could do that for papers or like long assignments that take more of me, right? Or administrator requirements, whatever those may be right now. How do we balance those demands alongside our own needs and our own health and well-being and sense of balance? And then how do we advocate for ourselves to our colleagues and our administrators, or maybe even our students when we've reached our limits, right? So that's the topic I would like us to go into this thinking about. We'll probably have about somewhere between 10 and 15, maybe a little over 10 for discussion in groups. And then we'll try to bring it back before we move on to the section 3, our our optional third of this meeting, which will basically be kind of troubleshooting for the folks that remain. So keep that in mind. Yeah, like car talk, exactly. Amy, will you break us into breakout groups now?
Yes, ma'am.
In the chat.